Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond Profit, a Global Perspective. I'm Mark, and I have a question for you leaders out there. For those of you who are aspiring leaders, maybe you've been promoted or you have big ideas about how you want to change an organization and it's all in front of you and you're excited and you're ready to use your leader superpowers and you're wondering, how am I going to make that happen and what challenges might I face? Or maybe you're a seasoned leader, you've been doing this for a little while, and you're finding that leadership is a lot harder than you thought it was, and there are many more obstacles than maybe you were prepared for. If you are in one of those places, then this is the video for you. Now, I, like many, have read a tall stack of books by self-professed leadership gurus and self-help people on how it is you should approach leadership, and they all seem to have little checklists and things. All you need to do is this and this and this, and it'll solve all your problems, and it's great. I laugh at these people. Not all of them, not all the time. I don't want to totally make fun, but I have seen so many of these books where they have all these great suggestions, but they never really acknowledge the sort of obstacles and serious challenges that a leader might have. And I will argue that before you get into all of these positive suggestions, things that I will eventually get around to talking about in videos and so on, before you get there, you have to acknowledge the limitations that you face. And so I think it's important whenever I teach leadership classes to start with that. You've got to just hit it head on. This is a question of control. I mean, if you could control your environment, if you could control all those variables out there, then leadership would be easy. So we need to start by talking about control and talking about those things that are beyond your control or are very hard for you to control either way. And we're going to start talking about it right now. Before we get started here, I wanted to thank you for being part of this community, for supporting this channel, and for watching my videos. I mean, if you're one of my students, you probably feel like you've got to watch this video, so maybe it'll help you out in your leadership class. But for the rest of you, I hope that you find a lot of value in it too. If so, please like, share, subscribe. Let me know if there's anything you want to learn about. Right now, subject matter is leadership, so I hope you enjoy this leadership video, and if you want to know more about leadership, then please leave some comments down below. Give me some ideas of some videos you would like me to make, some questions you'd like me to answer. Please feel free to share your experience as well, maybe as a leader, what kinds of obstacles and challenges you've faced. Maybe there are some things that we can talk about here below the line, or like I said, I can support with some additional videos and maybe offer some help for those of you who need it. So our discussion today is focused on the question of whether or not leaders matter. I'm going to use a nautical example. Are leaders happy captains, waiting to take glory when they wisely steer the ship to shore, while an expert crew works hard where there are few storms? Or are they clever navigators who can plot direction, steer the ship, inspire the crew in high performance, and survive the toughest storm? So we're casting this question from two different perspectives, but the question really addresses the idea of control. Can I get somebody to actually do the things that I want them to do, right? Are they doing it, and do they really need me? Is success more about what the leader is able to do, or is success more about the followers and maybe even the storm? Now, there isn't a simple answer to all of that question, and that's once again why I laugh at leadership gurus. Ha 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 ha. It isn't just all about the leader, and if it was, then leadership would be easy. So you do need to think about the leader, but you also do need to think about that crew and about the storm. When we come to the questions of do leaders matter, there's a little bit of conflicting data out there. On the yes side, research shows that leadership matters when the leader is perceived to be responsible and inspirational. Leaders throughout the organization are involved in making decisions, and these individuals are knowledgeable about the problem to be resolved. When leaders change, company performance changes. Now, I want to point this out to you, right? Because the implication is that the presence of a specific person and a specific approach is creating one direction, and inserting a different leader is going to create a different outcome. That's what this presumes. Statistical analysis suggests the leader might be responsible for between 15 to 45% of a firm's performance. Study findings have shown the leader's activities have a 66% probability of achieving a positive outcome in an organization's performance. Leaders can also be influential when it comes to employees and company culture as well. About 50 to 70% of an employee's perception of their work environment is linked to the actions and behaviors of management. It affects loyalty and retention. And you probably already know the answer to this question once I ask it, and that is, what is the number one reason why people quit their jobs? And the answer is, they didn't like their boss. So when there is a leader in place, one way or another, it does have a strong impact on a lot of employees out there. So when an organization provides a positive employee experience, there are improvements all over the place in customer satisfaction, greater innovation, generates 25% higher profits than organizations that do not provide a positive employee experience. So if employees are more engaged, there are all sorts of potential payoffs that happen, and a lot of this can be attributable to the leader. Then there's the other hand, the no, arguments against the importance of leadership. So one argument is that leaders can be irrelevant. Plug in one person, you plug in another person, and you get the same outcome either way. You can't prove that one particular leader had a unique effect. Let's flip the stats on its head that I just shared with you before. If leaders are responsible for between 15 and 45% of a firm's performance, then that means they don't do that much in a majority of cases. That's not a very optimistic number if that's accurate. Second, people can a lot of times lead themselves. Think about it for a minute. If you've got a whole team of people who are mostly very competent and you're a leader, it may not matter if it's you or somebody else. Like maybe you just take a laissez-faire approach to leadership and empower these people and let them do what they're supposed to do. And the time where a leader might make a difference is if you're one of these micromanaging leaders who comes along and says, hey, I'm going to mess around with all these people and screw up everything that they're already doing. Factors outside the leader's control have a larger impact on business outcomes than do leadership actions. And again, that's something we're going to dig into a little bit more, is what's happening in that outside environment that a leader does not have immediate control over. Those things that are outside one's own behavior. Organizational systems are far too complex to attribute success to leadership. And then, of course, we can flip the whole thing on its head. Maybe leaders matter sometimes, but not in a way that we like. What if they're not responsible? What if they're not inspirational? Do they do more harm than good? And I would argue there are some leaders out there who are like that, and that's a serious concern. So what's the answer to this question? Well, the answer honestly is a little bit of both. But there are a couple of different perspectives you can take when you're answering this question of control. Those who say that leaders matter are coming from an agent-centered perspective. Now, this idea of agency is a philosophical term that suggests that individuals have control over their environment, that their decisions matter, and that their conscience matters, that the choices to do something right or something wrong have an impact on that surrounding environment in some very significant ways. The other perspective is a structural perspective. That suggests that one's outside environment, whatever that environment is, the individuals sort of get tossed and pushed and pressured, and sometimes there's not a lot of latitude for decisions, and it's possible under those circumstances that leaders may not make that much difference. I mean, think about all of the things that come with being a leader and running a major organization. Let's say I go in, I see some problems, I want to make some changes. What happens if I don't have the resources, right? I don't have the money, I don't have the right people, I can't pay more to get better people, right? Those are situations where I might be the best leader in the world, but if I don't have the sorts of things necessary for me to actually fix the problem, then those structures, those things are sort of out and beyond my control, are things that are going to stymie me. Now, I'm not saying that there's no solution to those problems. There may be solutions to those problems, right? But a structural perspective argues that there's a whole lot of stuff out there, and it limits the behaviors and actions of leaders and their ability to affect their environment. In addition to the material restraints that hold us back, like we just talked about, like money, for example, there are also a whole array of social, psychological factors that affect how we behave. It affects us on an individual level, but it also affects us collectively on a group level. Now, I'm not going to go into all of that right now. There's actually a video that I have on socialization that answers some of those questions and goes into that in a whole lot of depth. But suffice it to say, everybody's got different life experiences, and it puts them on certain narrow paths. They have only a limited understanding of anybody else. It's like they are affected very strongly by their environment and by all of the groups that comprise that environment. They're surrounded by teams and identities and all sorts of things that limit the way that they think. So as a leader, you are either empowered by the fact that these people may already agree with you and have a perspective that's consistent with the way that you look at things, or you may be surrounded by some people who maybe are opposed to the way that you want to do things, or it may be a mix. But the point is that it's the people, to some extent, that may limit your ability to get things done. But the other side of socialization is that it also might limit you. Just like everybody else has their social blinders on, so do you. And so part of this question of agent and structure is there are some things you can control, like yourself, the agency part, and there's other parts that you can't directly control because you can't get inside of people's minds, you can't change storms, you can't just manufacture money out of anywhere. But you can do certain things in order to try to influence that. But whether or not that's going to be effective or not, subject to a lot of variables. And this is not an absolute. Again, we were talking continua before, right? It's like you could argue that, maybe leaders have absolute control in some situations and have virtually no control in other situations. And most of the time it's probably somewhere in between. This is going to be a common theme when we think about like how much control does a leader have and what can a leader actually do. So when we go forward in this class, I want you to remember that there's going to be a couple of tracks that we're going to take as far as approaching this subject material, but it's not a foregone conclusion that I can teach you all this stuff and you're going to get to be a great leader and then you're going to just be able to slay these organizations and lead all these people and stuff like that, because there is more to it than that. And so, yes, part of this class is all going to be like, how do I be inspirational? How do I motivate people, right? The other part of the class is going to be like, oh crap, what do we do about those situations that, are maybe outside our control, and, what do we do with that? So where does that leave us? There are two major problems when we think about the limitations of leadership. One is the external environment, the stuff that a leader can't possibly control. And we've talked about that to some extent. But in future videos, we're going to be discussing strategies for how a leader might affect that external environment and change things up. How do you exploit the kinds of things that exist in that structure that might help you? And how do you change the minds or change the environment in such a way that it can become more favorable to you? But the other limitation is you. That is, there may be things about your personality, your leadership style, your behavior, things that are inside of you that might also adversely affect your ability to lead. And so trying to figure out yourself and how you can improve and working on tactics, yes, this is where maybe a few things from some self-help gurus might help out occasionally, right? But we need to look at that a little bit more systematically. And that also is going to be the subject of future videos when it comes to leadership. How can I work on me so that I can adapt to that situation out there? So I hope that you've gotten something great out of this video. Until next time, I wish you the best of luck. Happy leading.